Well, we're on to one of my favourite times of the year again, of Halloween. Now, I was planning to do videos like this for some time, playing creepy, scary, horror-themed games. And one of those games is one I want to look at in the near future in the series. A series that I constantly hear about on the early YouTube years in the late 2000s. It's Castlevania. Considered to be one of the cult classics on the NES in the mid-80s. A vampire killer named Simon Belmont entered the castle to kill Count Dracula. Developed by Konami, which I want to say start the trend of great games that they made. Starting with this, the Contra series and the Metal Gear series. Now, franchises such as Contra and Ghosts and Goblins actually started as arcade games, this game being one of the only exceptions. Directed by Hitoshi Akamatsu, which I think we need to thank for making this series as it is. He only makes the first 3 games and all of a sudden he just fades off the face of the earth. Not that the series was trash or anything, hell no! Even the first game has so many remakes and remasters of any video games I've ever seen. We had Super Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo, which is technically a remake of the first game, but yet they still call it number 4. But I'll get to that in the near future. Then we have Vampire Killer for the MSX, Haunted Castle for the arcade, and finally Castlevania Chronicles for the PlayStation 1, which also contains a version that's only released in Japan for the Sharp X68000, which is a home computer released in the late 80s. But my focus tonight is on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, I will be playing this via the Anniversary Collection, that contains all the classic Castlevania games apart from Rondo of Blood and Dracula X on the Super Nintendo, which I guess for story purposes, since it's tying into Symphony of the Night, so I guess that makes sense. Despite the fact Symphony of the Night is a different style of gameplay. Anyway, on to Castlevania. So what's really going on here? Well, if you're around in the 1980s, you get greeted by the good evening. Now, I'm not sure if it was some sort of vampire talking to me, or someone is screeching for help. Anyway, you are told that all kinds of evil creatures were sent out all over the castle to stop you, and you must travel through floors to fight to the death against the Count after waiting 100 years for it. He's ready. Are you? Hold on a sec. So where are we at? Okay, I should sum this up properly. In the year 1691 in Transylvania is at peace until a monster named Count Dracula rises every century after being defeated by the Belmont clan with the holy weapon known as the Vampire Killer. So Dracula summons his demons to take over and killing people of Transylvania. That is until one of the Belmonts, named Simon Belmont, travels to the castle to stop and kill Count Dracula once and for all. This cover is one of the best I've seen. Having Simon looked over to this huge castle and the image of Dracula on the side that he is waiting for you if you can get through his traps. So you're in control of Simon Belmont. He has a whip as your main attack, but it can be upgraded by whipping those candles that has his power up inside. Which makes sense, I guess. Inside candles also contains hearts, which doesn't heal you surprisingly, but for your ammunition for sub-weapons. How exactly do you heal yourself then? Well, you find these pork chops hidden inside these specific walls. Who on earth and how do they put these behind these walls anyway? But it looks delicious though, as long as it ain't dirty. So with hearts as ammo, let's talk about those sub-weapons. First is the dagger, which I don't find useful honestly. It's used for long-range targets, which I find unnecessary as your whip and other sub-weapons are more useful, since most of the enemies you face are in range or above or below you. And you may notice that I'm not demonstrating me using the dagger, just shows why I never use it.
Next is the axe, which can be useful as you throw it in an arc and can do damage into enemies above or below you as it can phase through floors and walls. Then we have the cross boomerang, which you can throw across the room and then come back again, so it behaves like an actual boomerang. Now you may argue that it's not that much different than the dagger, as it's more useful for long range targets, but I find this a better weapon and it lasts longer than the dagger, and you can't even spam the dagger either. So yeah, I prefer this overall. But the next two doesn't even compare. First is the holy water. It acts like a grenade of sort. It can stun and even take an extra hit to enemies, making them easy picking. Finally is the stopwatch. It freezes everything around you, which only lasts a few seconds, and it costs 5 hearts per use. So the sub-weapons have their own pros and cons, so it's not bad overall. Other items you can get are double shot and triple shot that allows you to use sub-weapons a certain amount of times. Then you have the cross, which is a screen nuke that takes out all the enemies on the screen. And then you have the invisibility potion, which may as well be invincibility.
So yeah, that's quite a set of weapons. Even the people that didn't play this game, this must be a comfortable experience. If it didn't keep kicking you in the nuts repeatedly.
I'm not exaggerating why I'm going to say this. Castlevania is one of the hardest games I've ever played. But not at the point of being unfair and unplayable. But there are combinations of factors of what makes this game as hard as it is. The first thing is the controls. Simon is stiff on movement. The main culprit is his jumps. Once you move forward, Simon will then carry his momentum on that direction and you can't control his jumps in mid-air. So platforming can be a bit awkward at times and you'll pretty much have to hope you don't run into enemies. And even falling into bottomless pits. Second thing is enemy placement. Some of these guys are more annoying than others, like those hunchbacks which bounce all over the place as you're most likely to take a couple of pot shots if you miss them. And they love to bounce all over the place. I don't know about you, but every time I look at them, they look a little bit like Uncle Festus from the Addams Family. Maybe it's just me. Next is the crows. They're so awkward to hit as they're so small in size and they hold their position when they get ready to give you shit. Then my number one on my list is those bats. Well, more specifically on the third level. Similar to the crows, they're so awkward to hit or avoid as they keep gliding towards you, as 90% of the time would lead you to death. Which leads me to my third thing that makes the game difficult, is knockback. There is nothing more annoying than you getting hit then knocks you back to your death because of bullshit like this. Fuck! The other enemies I don't find that bad, honestly. I know people may bring up the Medusa heads, but to be honest, I don't find them that bad, as I can read their patterns and that my death is more my fault for being so reckless and trying to kill them, or I just misread their pattern. The skeletons on the platforms can be annoying at times, as you do take a few hits from them as they throw bones at you while you're climbing on stairs. The dragon skulls can be annoying if you can read their firing pattern. The Axe Knights are not too bad till I discover that you can throw the holy water and whip them at the same time to get a few extra hits in to stop them falling back. The others are just no problem, like zombies, fishmen, the Black Knight, and even those leopards. Just approach them, they pounce on you, then you jump over them and never see them again. The bosses are all the classic horror characters such as Frankenstein, mummies, Queen Medusa, and even Death himself. Some are not so bad, and others are just a giant pain in the arse if you don't have the right sub-weapon. Like Frankenstein, you have to get the stopwatch or the holy water, but you have to keep hold of one of them and not pick the other item on your way, otherwise you're in for a long hard battle. Same thing with Death. You cannot beat him without the holy water. It's located only at the beginning of the level, and you have to keep hold of it till you can get to him without dying. If you do, you have to get a game over and start all over again. Now, you do have 3 lives in this game, but you do have unlimited continues, but you have to start the beginning of the stage again. So at least the game's being fair, unlike other games back then. I mean, you can try and beat him, but how many players out there actually beat death without the holy water? And don't tell me that you straight up said you did. I want proof! Castlevania has a lot of variety in the plays to explore. We have the castle hallway, the sewers, the dungeon, a clock tower, and finally Dracula's hideout. This place is bigger than you think. The map shows you that it isn't that big. Take a look at the background on the 3rd level. That's where Dracula is. Makes you think, how much of the castle haven't we explored yet? Maybe that is a sign of things to come in later games, as Alucard says.
This castle is a creature of chaos. It may take many incarnations.
The game looks great with its gothic setting. The developers were going for a cinematic classic horror setting, and I think it's done a job pretty well. Same goes with the music, which is composed by a combination of Kinuyo Yamashita and Sato Terashima. This is one of the most memorable video game soundtracks on the NES, even across the entire generation. I couldn't get enough of Vampire Killer, the traditional theme of the series. In fact, I actually like the whole soundtrack overall. Not what I would listen to when I'm not doing anything special, but it does give me the feel of the epic feel that keeps me pumped from start to finish. Okay, time to face off Dracula. We start with the staircase. Now, if you follow the Angry Video Game Nerd's advice, do the same thing here. Make sure you fill up with hearts before you fight him. So just collect a couple of hearts and then go down the stairs and then come back up so the candles respond. So get at least 30 hearts ready. So here is Dracula, who looks really weird every time I look at him. I couldn't help but feel that he is Dracula with Gonzo's head. Anyway, Dracula shoots 3 fireballs in multiple directions, and you do have to hit him on the head. Sometimes he loves to teleport right on top of you to damage you, which is a dick move. After knocking his head off, he then transforms into whatever the hell this thing is. And this is where you really need to make sure you have enough health for this thing. I mean, he really hurts when he touches you. Even when he jumps over you, you still take damage. So no matter what you do, you will get hit. You just got to keep hitting him and hoping he dies before you do. If you get a game over, you do start on the grand staircase again, but you still have to fight the first phase of Dracula, which can be really tedious even when you don't need to get hit as many times as you like.
Right, let's do this. Die, monster! You don't belong in this world! Yeah! Just like that, Dracula's got sent back to hell, but we'll see him again multiple times.
So after defeating Dracula, the castle crumbles in the distance, and that's where the game ends. And we have probably the most bizarre and funniest credits sequence, where it's mostly parodying names from famous writers and actors from classic horror media. Like Bram Stoker, which is Bram Stoker, the writer of the Dracula novel. After that, you restart the game and you're now playing the hard mode, which I think you know what you're getting into.
I can truly see why this is considered a cult classic in the NES library. The game can be difficult at times, okay, mostly, but the game does have some interesting concepts that makes this extremely memorable. The boss fights are the highlight for me, fighting against classic horror characters that probably haunt you in your dreams. No? Okay then. But I wouldn't let the game's difficulty turn you off from playing this. The other alternative is that in Japan in 1993, Konami re-released Castlevania for the Famicom Disk System, where the game contains an easy mode. Your damage output isn't as obnoxious, especially endgame. The bosses go down more easily this time around, and the best part is that instead of getting the horrible knockback when you get hit, you just stay in place. So you just break your momentum while you're jumping when you get hit. After beating the game, you play the hard mode of easy mode, and I think this would be more playable for you. Or you can just play this on the Anniversary Collection where you can use save states, which is what I did for this video. Yeah, I know it's an easy option, but I'll tell you what, if I reach 1,000 subscribers, I will do a whole live stream playthrough of this game with no save states, no cheats, none of that. I promise. But go play this game, it's worth your time. As for me, I got other things to do after fighting Dracula. So with that said, make sure you hit that like button, share this video to your family, friends, or your nearby monsters. So whenever I return to the Castlevania series, I'll be looking at Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest for the NES. But for now, I'm going to head back to the Sonic series. So I'll see you next time, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, and so I'll see you soon.